Where's the title?
And Brian, was he gonna make it today?
So long.
I didn't hear.
Impossible to type.
Dude,
Coming.
finance dude.
Yeah, finance.
And I didn't see Kenny before he left this morning. I don't know if he was coming back.
And then what is John?
John is management analyst.
And what is Amy?
Accounting.
I know Kenny mentioned it last week.
Lady.
And
Cindy's director.
John Hauser. Yeah, I got that one.
What about Kenny?
I'll try and text him.
Got it.
Kenny's not here and Kenny's not here. We don't have time.
What if we could just get a quorum?
Yes.
Yay, we got a quorum! Hey, Brian.
right.
Hey, Brian.
Brian saved the day.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
Don't need to make this short. How long you
Um,
And I took all those excerpts out. We don't have to go. It's in the packet. Syndicated. Primary finance.
right, yeah, these.
Have you ever done a meeting before?
First time.
Okay.
But I did want to pull out everything related to the fire.
And yours.
50 pages.
Right, because this is all out of the capper here, right, this part?
You'll notice
Um,
there's some back pages. You know
The
why?
general overview, and if anybody has any questions, that'd be great, thank you.
It's because, they're saying,
Oh, they're way underneath. I've already been on the floor to get there. I was just telling Ann that, I'm like, next time.
Yeah, they need to have them on top.
Yeah,
I'm too young for this.
exactly. I was wondering that too. I guess it's public record, right? Let me see if I can get a hold of both of them.
Did you all see, Pedro just sent me an email, or I think he sent it to everybody, that said he's having a issue saying the address is unavailable.
Oh. Did we send him a link to the Teams? Is that what?
It's password.
Hmm?
Password?
oh, guest with a G, G-U-E-S-T, 34677.
Capital G?
Yeah, capital G.
Capital G?
Capital guest.
Capital G, lowercase s. I'm going to stamp that to your forehead.
And it's so difficult to remember.
All right.
Meeting is live streaming.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's appropriate for me.
Okay.
My glasses.
See if Kenny responds.
Telling Ann when I was listening. Saw Tom Trask last night. You guys have been going nuts in the neighborhood. I feel like the last few weeks.
It's been a lot in this side of town.
I said, yeah. I said, this COVID's been tough on everybody.
Of course, I'm over by your house 2 days a week.
Or what do
So.
you think?
What time? It was more than.
5.
Had nothing to do with that live
You're not up
stream,
yet?
that whole situation.
Oh,
did
no,
it?
no, well. No, we get up at 6 with the dog.
Cares does mean something, so.
Yeah.
You get up as I'm leaving.
It's a nice presentation, huh?
Amy, can you call Pedro into the meeting?
We're appreciating
It wasn't me.
Just kind of getting that stuff, you know. Needless to say, I watched the video.
Okay. Somebody doesn't know what I do, you know, a lot of. Different journals, I'm like,
I said, yes.
something I do, you know.
Hey, you just rolled on that. Council must have agreed that was the best cover of the
Yeah, I do like.
It's nice, right? Yeah.
Like everything. It's
Yeah.
great. Y'all did a great job.
Oh, that's Amy, that's all of it.
I guess, I'm thinking Kenny forgot. He said, I'm thinking Kenny forgot. He said, what meeting? So I'm guessing he won't be here. I could ask. We get Pedro in?
Pedro's having issues.
He was fine when we tried it on that test.
We're doing Teams instead of.
Oh, switching up.
Oh, the test is on Zoom?
Did we resend the link to you?
Cindy did, yeah.
Did. Can you call them into the meeting, Amy? Huh? Can you call them into the meeting? No, because it says it's,
Can you email that link to Kenny as well? And he'll try, he said, from where he's at.
trying to call it, but that's a problem.
Did he know that it had been switched over to Teams? After you guys said,
The Teams link, so.
okay.
Did you get your shot?
Yes,
I got mine yesterday.
okay, good. You, which one?
Moderna.
Okay, so you gotta go back for a second. That's what I'm wondering, yeah. It'd probably be easiest. But then I don't know if I need to sit by the phone. I think I had to last time.
Also, put the phone up next to the cell phone, up next to. And Pedro's having trouble getting on, we were thinking about just calling him.
Yeah, you just call him from the phone that's over here. What's his number? Or if you want to give him the number to call, would you rather do that?
Either way, just trying to find his number. Here we go.
I guess it's probably if we call him, because it might be set up to not ring or something weird. Don't make him call an attorney. And he's like, we're live streaming and stop. Stop. Listen, there's a horror.
I know, right? Exactly.
Always catching something.
Right here, right now.
Of course.
In real time.
Okay, so phone number, ready?
Yeah.
305-613-5302.
Uh-oh, the whole world knows it now. Dial. Oh, dial. There you go.
Hello.
Hi, Pedro. So we got you on speakerphone and we're live streaming on the interweb,
Woohoo!
right?
Sorry, everybody. I don't know what happened. I can't seem to get on, but I'm sure I'm just doing something wrong. I apologize for the inconvenience.
No worries.
No problem.
Okay, so Kenny's gonna try and jump in, but we'll just let him jump in as, where he can. So we'll go ahead and call
I'm sorry, do you mean jump in?
on Teams.
He can't.
He can.
Yeah, no, that's not allowed by
Okay.
Florida statute
Oh,
at this point.
Okay. Let me let him know.
I mean, he can watch it, but he can't participate or be counted as having attended.
Okay. Okay. So we will go ahead and call the pension board meeting to order for March 23rd. First item on our agenda is the Citizens Open Forum. Seeing nobody. Okay, we'll go on to our first item, approval of the minutes from December 1st.
I move to approve.
Okay, I'll second. Any discussion? Only comment I had was we had in attendance in the beginning, we have Kenny present and absent.
Oh, yeah, that's a little difficult.
I didn't know if the absent was supposed to be Carmine or.
Yeah, more than likely.
Okay.
I'll fix
Kenny
that. So
can
if you can, so he would need to change his thing to as amended,
Okay.
the motion. Yeah.
Would you like to adjust your motion?
I move to accept the minutes as amended.
I'll go ahead and second the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is the pension fund financial statements for fiscal year in 9/30.
Madam Chair, John Hauser, CPA, is here for Wells, Hauser, and Shassel to present the audit.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. The Fire Pension Board elected to not have a separate audit for this fiscal year, so it's included in the comprehensive annual financial report of the city of Oldsmar. That's a pretty voluminous document, so I've made excerpts, or copies, if you will, of the pertinent pages that pertain to the firefighters' pension plan. There were 4 reports our firm issued for the city. Our independent auditor's report expressed an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. Our report on internal control and compliance noted no material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, or instances of non-compliance. Auditor General's report had no findings or no prior findings to respond to. And the Auditor General report as it pertained to compliance with investments, whether it be the city's investment policy or the firefighter pension plan investment policy, there were no instances of non-compliance there. All the investments were compliant with the approved investment policies of each of the entities. Included in your packets, there is the 2 pages of the basic financial statements, which are the statement of net position, which is numbered page 28, and the statement of changes in fiduciary net position, which is numbered page 29. I'd like to start with page 29, the statement of changes in fiduciary net position. It presents the results for 2020 fiscal year, ended September 30, 2020, with comparative amounts for September 30, 2019. The 2019 column, you'll see it indicates as restated. During the performance of the procedures and review of the actuarial reports and the city utilizing advanced employer contributions, we determined it was necessary to restate 2019. Back in 10/1/16, the plan carved out a defined contribution portion, a share plan for the participants in the plan at that time. It was basically to utilize the excess Chapter 175 contributions. There had been limits placed on those for a number of years, and this excess had been building up over the years. So there was about $628,000 of excess contributions available. The city and the plan agreed that $500,000 would be used to fund the share plan, and that was at 10/1/16. Now, the monies were never transferred out of the investment plan itself. They were always there. So the reason it wasn't carved out was there's really no transaction. The monies were already there. At 10/1/19, the collective bargaining agreement allowed the city to utilize the balance of those excess contributions as current and future, meet their current and future obligation for the pension contributions. So in the 2019, you'll see the restatement reflects the balance of the excess 175 contributions of 128,680, as well as the amount portrayed as due to share plan. And that's the original $500,000 plus the accumulated earnings for that $500,000. And that's being tracked by the finance department. The net assets available for defined benefits, you couldn't use that share plan portion, so that's why it's carved out. And as opposed to being shown as part of the assets available for defined benefit, it's shown as a liability as due to share plan. Overall, the total additions increased about $162,000. Investment return was up. The fire insurance premium tax went down a little bit, a couple thousand. The employer utilized $46,000 of the advanced employer contribution to meet their obligation for the actuarial determined contribution for the city. Total deductions were pretty similar. There was an increase in the administrative charges, but there was a total increase overall in the plan of $665,000 for the year, in excess of additions over deductions. If we go to page 28, that's the statement of net position. The total assets increased a little over $655,000, as we saw. And the liabilities, we now have these in 19, the excess Chapter 175 contributions, but in 20, with the 10/1/19 collective bargaining agreement, those then became available to the city and are now reflected as advanced employer contributions, which is the balance of the original 128 minus the 46 that was utilized in 2020. So that 82 that's available, the city will utilize that in this coming fiscal year, and it will be eliminated at that time or utilized fully. And the amount due to the share plan at the end of the year was $677. For the net position restricted for pension benefits of $6,906,000, and actually that amount exceeds the pension obligation of the city. The city actually has a net pension asset of around $7,000. So the plan is at 9/30/20 was fully funded, 101% funded, if you will. Additional items really within the comprehensive annual financial report are Note I, which goes through all the retirement plans of the city, but also the Firefighters Retirement Pension Trust Fund. There's probably about 10 pages there, page 48 through 57. And then page 63 64 and 65 are what's called required supplementary information. Page 63 provides the pension liability, the pension net position, and the net pension liability or asset. And as I said, there is a net pension asset. That is the plan assets available for benefits exceed the liability. So you're a little over 100% funded for 9/30/20. And that's not the first time. There's been a net asset in a number of the years, so the plan appears to be in good financial shape. There's a schedule of contributions, 10 years. And then page 64 and 65 are GASB 67 requirements, which present each year by year basically the same information as far as liability position and net liability or asset, and then how that changed during the year from an actuarial standpoint. It also presents the average, annual money-weighted average rate of return, which was 6.63% for 9/30/20. And your plan's using a discount rate of 7%, so you're very close to what that would be. And it's exceeded 7% in prior years, and that's a year-to-year evaluation that the board goes through, and you determine and instruct the actuary what rate to use. You use a higher rate, it's going to lower the liability. You use a lower rate, it's going to increase the liability. But it needs to be reasonable in comparison to, historical trend data. If anyone has any questions, I'll try to address them now.
Any questions?
Mine are not as much on the numbers, because I know it's been going really well. Did we have discussion the last meeting or the meeting before in regards to, I know we've been doing every other year with the full-blown one, and I'm very frugal, as you know, at this point, but I guess I'm still very hesitant to say, because when I look at this and I see what's being done on an annual basis, no matter what, I still don't see the need for the extra expenditure every other year. And I was just, do you have any opinion on that, I guess?
There's no requirement that you have a separate report. It's just a board decision. A lot of plans, it basically depends on the board, but there's no statutory requirement that you have it done separately.
How many boards are you dealing with throughout the state? A lot.
Yeah. Well, Seminole and that's only the one I work with here in Pinellas County. I'm not like the attorney who's all over the state. I'm a local guy.
So in years past, it had kind of been on a legal,
Recommendation.
yes.
Yeah, I believe that was a recommendation from the board's attorney.
I think he still would recommend that we do the full report every year, just for fiduciary liability.
It does present it in a more, I guess, readable format, in that it separates out all the other information of the city, which sometimes can distract from, what you're trying to evaluate.
Pedro, would you like to weigh in on that at all? Don, you might have to relay.
I'm sorry, and I don't know if that was directed at me, but I just had a couple comments. So there is a requirement, obviously, that we perform an audit. It doesn't have to be a standalone audit, if you will, as opposed to as part of the city's CAFR. However, I would, obviously, it's not the same, so I don't want the board to think that it is the same. When the plan financial statements are audited, that is different than it being included as part of the city's CAFR. For several reasons, obviously, first and foremost, there would be a materiality issue, which would be entirely distinct. But I guess most importantly from the board's perspective is the auditor would provide an opinion letter specific to our retirement system, as opposed to here, which, and maybe I misunderstood or misheard, but I I don't believe that that's the case. I believe that the auditor issued the opinion with respect to the city, or maybe I misheard, and maybe the auditor issued the opinion with respect to the firefighter pension plan individually, as well as a different opinion letter to the city for its capper. I don't know if I misunderstood, but those are the primary differences. So I think the board's position was, in an effort to maybe save some expenses, it wouldn't have the audit every year, standalone audit every year.
I would agree with that, Pedro. You're correct. It's an in relation to opinion as it pertains to the firefighter pension plan. It's not a standalone opinion.
But I think as we've discussed in the past, this does fulfill obviously your requirements. This does, I believe, help the board achieve its fiduciary responsibilities and ensuring that the plan, everything is accounted for and properly vetted. So I don't want it to seem as though this is insufficient by any stretch. I think I'm just trying to, and originally the discussion was centered around the differences between, kind of a standalone audit and as part of being included with the city's capper. But I think for our purposes, obviously it's a very thorough report and it's very well presented. So I don't have an issue with it from our perspective, from the board's perspective.
Thank you. Any other questions?
We will, when the time comes, we will get an engagement letter for both options, the standalone report and the included with the city's capper report. At that point, the board can discuss it and make a decision. Then that would likely be either on the next agenda or the following agenda.
And maybe another option, I think in the past we had done it every other year. Maybe the board wants to kind of switch it to, every third year or something like that, which I think, or every fourth year, every fifth year. I mean, obviously whatever option would feel comfortable to the board, that's certainly another option that can be entertained in the interest of potentially, curbing some expenses. But we can always have that discussion at the next meeting or whatever it is that when we get the engagement letters.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And do we need to adopt what's been presented for the, or just acknowledge that we received it?
I don't think a formal motion would be necessary. Again, it's not an express opinion to the board. I think the board can just accept it and receive it. But I don't think any formal action is required from the board at this point.
Okay, thank you. No other questions? Thank you, John.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you, John.
Obviously, we're going to note it as part of the minutes that we had the presentation and we had the discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, next item on our agenda is the invoice for the preparation of the audit.
Madam Chair, Wells Hauser and Shassel, PA has presented an invoice which is in agreement with the engagement letter presented at the September 22nd meeting. The total for the invoice for the audit work is $4,500, and the board approves. We will receive the payment.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the invoice for Wells Hauser as presented.
I'll go ahead and second the motion.
Any other discussion or questions?
So this is the cost for this version attached.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed as presented for payment.
But do have one little question. I would like that was our portion of that audit, not, okay, that's all. Just want to clarify that.
Right, there's additional audit work that needs to be done specific for the pension plan, and that is the cost, the allocation of the city's audit for that work is $4,500. the time it takes to audit those records and make sure everything's in compliance.
And is that dollar amount audited as far as the allocation goes, or just blank?
It will be.
Are you offering to do that?
No. That's what we got Garrett for,
We need an audit of the audit.
right?
That's right.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Next item is the quarterly investment report.
Okay. Madam Chair, Jeremy Langley with the Florida League of Cities is on, he's a virtual attendee, and he will present the financial report. Jeremy, can you hear us?
I can, yes. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
You're on.
I had the rookie mute mistake going. Okay, so you had something pulled up, but I can also read it off of mine here as well. So the information that you all have would be for December 31st. Your beginning balance for the quarter was $7,665,000. Had just under 60,000 of contributions come in. Had a really good, great quarter just in the market. So we're off to a hot start for your fiscal. A little over 829, paid out 14,500 in distributions, about 7,100 in expenses. Your ending balance was $8,533,082.95. If you were to scroll down probably 12, 13 pages or so, usually in that report, you can see the earnings for the quarter. So obviously, again, it was just a great start to the fiscal year. You were up 10.82% for the quarter. So really kind of pretty much had a great year in the first quarter. And now we're just kind of starting to ride a little roller coaster the last few months. But your high quality bond fund was actually down about 0.4%. Your core plus, however, was up 3.18. So you're up about 2.7% in your fixed income. So equities really did kind of carry the day and were responsible for the majority of the returns. But I do want to highlight on the core plus. So core plus has 50% of the fixed income, and your broad market high quality fund has 50% of the fixed income. Within the core plus, we have two different managers who each have roughly 50% of the core plus money. We have Franklin Templeton and Pioneer. Our advisory committee, along with our consultant, has made the decision to moving forward that we're going to remove Franklin Templeton from the core plus. There were several things at play. One, Franklin Templeton has been underperforming recently. That was the first part, and obviously a big piece of the pie. But also their strategy was meant to kind of complement Pioneers. So they're not the same at all. They're supposed to kind of work hand in hand. Going forward, we don't believe their strategy is going to play as well and be as complementary to Pioneer strategy. And then the third piece of the pie is Pioneer has been performing an extremely high level now for quite a while. So you add that all up, and our board, again, working with our consultant, thought the best move would be to remove Franklin Templeton from the core plus fund, but then to move all those assets into Pioneer as opposed to going out and trying to find another replacement manager. Again, with Pioneer performing as well as they had, it's kind of one of those, why go reinvent the wheel when you already have a manager in place who has been doing well. So for the time being, they're going to move all the assets for the core plus over to Pioneer, and then we'll kind of ride them and expect them to continue that great performance. That transition, we're hoping, will take place by the end of April. From your all standpoint, it'll be seamless. You won't have to do anything. If I didn't tell you about it, you wouldn't even know. And I say that only from a standpoint, you don't have to worry about any bumps in the road or any homework or extra activities that you'll have to do on our end. On your end, it'll all be handled on our end, and again, should be seamless from your point of view. But that said, I'll kind of stop for a second. Any questions about that change?
Any questions? I think we're good, Jeremy. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, this quarter, when I'm bringing pretty much all good news, these are easy quarters. I don't get near as many questions as other ones. But so if we keep going down, you see your equity, your U.S. large cap was up 16.3%. And then your small mid-cap portfolio was 20.5%, and then international up 16.3%. So again, that's obviously where we got all of our, the majority of our returns for the quarter. Just a great. And then kind of finishing that off, you do have the core real estate, which had a nice quarter at 1.4%. It just unfortunately has to follow up the equity side, so it doesn't look quite as robust, but a nice quarter for the real estate as well. Moving forward, a couple other things that were in discussion, again, between our consultant and our advisory committee. They actually just met, and the one decision I just talked about with Core Plus, that was just a couple weeks ago. And they are looking at some other opportunities, not necessarily in the next month or two, but going forward, we are looking at some other opportunities to decide whether or not we want to add any other equity asset allocations. To this point, there's no hard decisions in place. This is more just kind of, again, an FYI to you all, that we are exploring some other options to see if there's anything that we would want to add that would make sense moving forward. And just kind of, I'm sure you've heard me say this many times, the way our board looks at it is anytime we're going to be additive or look at any additional opportunities, it's always what sort of risk would be added by doing that. So even if we think we can get some more return by doing something, if we have to add risk to do it, more often than not, we're going to make the decision not to. So any of the opportunities we're looking at are kind of be risk-based decisions. So can we get some more return, but again, without adding any extra risk to the total portfolio? I know private equity is in that conversation, hedge funds. Commodity, I think somebody said the word once, but it was brushed over a little bit. I don't think anybody's a huge fan at this time of commodities. But again, we are just kind of want to keep you all aware that we are looking at other opportunities to see if there's anything out there that makes sense. But kind of part of what's at play as it relates to that is our consultant, and really if you talk to any probably pension consultant out there, you're going to hear a lot of the same story, which is even though I'm sitting here and it's kind of ironic, we had almost 11% return that quarter, there is a predicted slowdown in the market coming over the next few years. Two things at play. One, interest rates continuing to stay low means you're probably not going to see a lot of great returns in the fixed income. And then the equity market, again, even though we just continue to climb and climb and climb, at some point it just seems like you're going to hit a bit of a wall. And the reason being, if nothing else, the price of stocks is just very high right now. It costs a lot to buy a piece of a company right now, and the price per earnings kind of still there. Can you all still hear me? My video's frozen.
We can hear you. Yeah, your video's
Okay.
frozen.
Okay. So I'll keep going, and I apologize for what you're having to stare at there. If you can just look past that and listen to words. So, as I was mentioning, the price per earnings being a gauge for the cost of stocks, the S&P 500 is historically is traded about 10 to 15 times earnings. As of just a few days ago, it was up over 40 times earnings. And that just seems like that's, to most of the experts, they would say that's just not sustainable. And so there would be an expected slowdown, and you just see more muted returns over the next few years. And what that would do, hopefully, was allow the earnings to catch up more to the price of the stocks. Kind of what some of the expectations are that, hopefully we'll still see positive returns, but just over the short run, they might be a little more muted as opposed to these, I think this fund's returning about 8.36% over the last 10 years, and that's probably not the likely trend over the next few years. But in the long run, we still, the 7+% I think is still a positive outlook over the long run. So again, we're just talking more maybe the next 3 to 5 years. Any questions about anything related to the investments?
Any questions from the board?
I can't let it go. Jeremy, I thought the real estate was a part of the fixed income component when you guys spun it off.
We took 10% from the fixed income and moved it into the real estate.
Okay. And then who's the manager for the real estate portion of this?
Morgan Stanley.
Okay. Are they actually long equities, or are they taking the funds from the state and managing property?
It is a true core real estate manager. So they own the properties, but then they also do have a management portion. So a lot of the properties they owned are managed by a company that they hold as well. I don't know. Does that answer?
Yeah. Is there like a certain component? Are they medical? Are they commercial?
Oh, the types of actually within, and I apologize because it's my side that's apparently it's frozen because I cannot pull up my report. Within your quarterly investment report, if you scroll down to the real estate section, there's actually a breakout of the different sectors and the percentages that you have in each of those. So you'll have you do have a little bit of retail. I don't quote me, 10, 12% maybe. A lot of warehouse or / industrial. There is some multifamily housing, so large apartment buildings. You have office space. I do believe there is a small allocation to healthcare, buildings as well. But within that report, there would be a breakdown of each individual sector. And I apologize that my computer is going haywire on me at this moment. Did I lose you all completely?
No, you're
Yep,
there.
we're here.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, and just for the record, if they start doing commodities, I'll start kicking and screaming. And I hope there's been no discussion on cryptocurrency or any of that psychoness.
There has definitely been no discussion of cryptocurrency, and commodities have so far been looked down upon. So I think everybody shares your sentiment, but I also believe it's kind of one of those you have to at least every so often you have to name all the different groups and then quickly thumbs down a few of them.
Any other questions? Just a comment, Jeremy, unless I'm looking past it, I don't see in the report where it shows that breakdown of the real estate.
Yeah, neither do I.
In the agenda, we only put in the first 15 pages there
Okay.
now. It could be in
The full report you sent.
the full report.
Yes, it would be right. It would be towards the back end because they're I think it's the last manager list in there. So you'd probably the 100th page down or so. But it would, yeah, you'd have to have the full report.
What about a generic one? What's the expense ratio for Morgan Stanley, just for curiosity's sake? And I'm not gonna do it, we can't do anything about it. We gotta be in the component because of the way it's run, but I'm just curious.
Again, unfortunately, I apologize. I can't give you the specific. I think it's a little over 1%. But it's in that, that's also in that report. So under the manager, you could see, in that report, you can see what each manager's expense ratio is. It would be in there. Now, all the numbers you're seeing in this report are net of those fees, though.
Any other questions or discussions? Thank you, Jeremy.
Okay. Yes, thank you all.
Okay. Oh,
Can I just add, just so you understand, so that Morgan Stanley's taking this big chunk of, what are they called, FRS? Of that big chunk of billions of dollars, and that 10%, a chunk of it's going to actually managing the real estate. The accountants, managers, and property and all those expenses are still wrapped inside that expense, and then there's still an overlay of a 1% management fee on top of that, if you follow me.
Yes.
So you're still paying for the landlord. And that's, they'll never give us that number, but that's the number what the actual, but it's me and my OCD, and I apologize.
No, that's good.
I did hear that question, and I didn't realize that's what you were looking for. I do not know that number myself. I will do some digging, because I've never heard that number talked about as far as what their management company charges back
Through the
to
loop.
essentially the fund. So I'll see. I can't make any promises on that, but I'll definitely do some inquiring.
Yeah, don't kill yourself, but I'm just curious.
Okay. Oh, that's a good question.
Okay. Next item is our
Budget
city
report,
budget.
Madam Chair. The budget report is, the administrative budget is a statutory requirement. We provide the board with an information report every quarter just to let the board know where we stand with in comparison to the administrative budget that was approved. There wasn't a whole lot of activity in the first quarter. We did have plan administration fees of about $4,600, and then we made some payments to the attorney, the legal counsel of about $2,500. The audit invoice that was just approved is well below the budgeted amount, so we do not, at this point, we do not see any problems or have any budgetary concerns moving forward. And again, this report is as of December 31st, 2020.
Okay. Any questions or discussions? Thank you. Next item is discussing the renewal for fiduciary liability insurance.
Yes, Madam Chair, the fiduciary liability policy is in place to protect the trustees from any type of breach of, pardon?
I'm so sorry. Keep going.
Any breach of fiduciary liability or duty. We approved a 3-year policy, or the board approved a 3-year policy back in 2018. We are currently in the last year. The renewal for this will come up starting on July 1st. I wanted to put this on the agenda. It's currently too early to get a quote for it. In the next month or so, we can get some numbers in from the League of Cities. The policy is through Travelers, but brokered through the League of Cities. And I just wanted to put it on the agenda so we can get the board to start talking about, you know, what kind of direction they wanted us to proceed as far as this policy. And we have the option, we need the board's input for the amount of the policy. It's currently set at $1 million. And also what would be an acceptable renewal if we go with League of Cities, or if you would like us to get quotes from other providers or other insurance companies.
I was expecting Garrett to run up and say pie insurance and throw pie at you. That's what I was laughing at. I'm sorry.
A little slow in the draw today, right?
And I don't remember, when we did quotes last time, did we receive quotes from others, or did we just do a renewal with Travelers?
The renewal was very competitive, and the price didn't change much, so we went with the League of Cities. The board did not ask for us to get quotes at that time. You know, right now we have enough time where we can go out and do that, if you would like us to.
My personal opinion would be yes.
Okay.
Yeah, since we didn't do it last time.
Okay.
The other thing I'd like to know is, I know we have that $1 million number, but as this plan continues to grow in the coming years, is there a threshold that we should up it to 2 or 2.5? I mean, and I guess it's a Pedro question, but what's everybody else doing?
Yeah, my notes from 2018 indicated that typically the policy is set at somewhere between 1 and 10% of the plan assets, with a lot of the plans going with either 1 million or 1.5. So Pedro, do you have any input for us there or any direction?
Is he still there?
Did we lose him?
Pedro, you there? Must have lost.
Well, and then the other question is just to clarify and remember what I'm doing, but, this is covering us from our fiduciary accountability portion of it, correct?
Yes.
So if we make $1 million error from our fiduciary standpoint, that's what it's covering.
Right, yes.
Is there a deductible?
Don't think so. I'll double check on that.
I don't know that we've ever discussed that.
Mine's 10,000 for my fiduciary insurance. That's why I'm curious.
You need to call Pedro again.
Probably should try and call him again. Do you need the number? Thank you. So I think within the last 2 renewals, we did up it from what we had it at before, and I don't remember what that number was.
The last renewal, we went from 1.5 million back down to $1 million.
Oh, we went down. Okay. And that was probably based on the fund balance.
We did get quotes for different levels, and that's what the board decided.
Okay.
Pedro provided some input on that level. We can, if we're not able to connect with Pedro immediately, we can proceed with getting quotes. We can look for 3 different companies, one being the League of Cities. And then we will look for some different levels also.
Yeah, this is, next time, Steve Oldsmar, we were trying to call Pedro for the firefighter pension thing.
For a different reason.
Isn't me or these lights bright today?
They're bright. But probably because it's streaming.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need
We're
this
gonna
one.
capture all my wrinkles.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a clown. We would be out of here in like 10 minutes if it wasn't for me.
There is no retention on the fiduciary liability
Yeah, it might
insurance.
go through. It's 813.
There is no what?
Retention or deductible on the insurance.
1180. But is it, do you have a different number? No. Oh, okay, we're gonna try a different number, because I think you might have tried to call and it doesn't go through. Okay, I thought maybe we were gonna try something else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you hear Garrett? He said there's no deductible.
I thought it was the same one. 305 613
Should have stood up and like got on the
5300.
Do you know what commercial I'm talking about?
No,
You haven't seen the pie commercial with the guy for business renewal?
no.
You'll see it tonight probably now. So I do sound like a fruitcake because you have no idea what I'm talking about.
You've reached Pedro Herrera. Please leave a message. Thank you.
I think it's time for 1-800 call Gary. I'm kidding. There's no point leaving a message for him. I'll text him and see what's going on.
Okay. Okay, so we will look into quotes. Okay.
We'll get, do you have any preference as to the insurance company we use, any recommendations?
I don't. Do you guys?
I'm gonna look at the ones that, I don't know if we're eligible to use it as a city, but it's a specific fiduciary system.
Okay.
And I have, it's like the FPA something, something. And I'll remember it. and-
Okay, yeah, if you could send me the name of the company, we'll add it to the notes. The levels, we could do million, million and a half, two.
Okay.
Should I try
Yeah,
anything else? Would be sufficient?
I think that should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess my concern as far as the levels go is in no time we'll blink, in a couple years and we'll be at that 10.
Mm-hmm.
And once we start getting above that, I don't want the
Costs
errors.
might go up and.
Then I'll be
significant.
really rooting for the annual, separate audit.
Any further questions or discussions?
Okay.
All right, next
Thank you.
item, I'm sorry. Next item is our trustee attendance policy review.
Okay. Madam Chair, we had this item on the last agenda, and we distributed a copy for the board members to review. It's a requirement for this policy to be reviewed every 2 years. The last time it was changed was February 21st, 2017. So I'd ask the board members to review the policy and provide, let me know if, or let Renee know if you, Madam Chair, know if we would like to make any changes to the policy.
Okay.
And essentially, if a trustee is unable to attend, they are to notify the city clerk or the chairperson ASAP. And if there's 2 or more unexcused absences during one planned fiscal year, that such trustee will be deemed effectively resigned. That's the essence of the current policy.
Mhm. I personally don't need to change it, but
Now, the only question I had is that they had done a bunch of switches to leisure, is that what it's called, the leisure services?
Advisory Board.
Yeah, and the other ones, are we consistent, or is because we're on a quarterly basis, or did they switch to quarterly?
This board is really governed by Chapter 175, the Florida statute. So it's not really, it's not a city advisory board, it's an independent board.
Okay,
So it's not, you know, we have the requirement is that we meet at least quarterly, which we do. And then the board composition is kind of outlined in Chapter 175 as well.
Yeah.
So anything that goes on with the Leisure Services Advisory Board is, you know, not really relevant to our board.
Is there anything to identify something that's a usable excuse? I mean, I can sit here and say, hey, I'm tied up in traffic, you know, what's gonna be an acceptable excuse for an absence? Should there be any consideration for that?
My understanding is that's the board's discretion. So as the board, kind of set the standards for yourselves as far as what's okay or not okay, excusable, not excusable on an absence, and in that situation.
next they'll tell us they're fighting a fire or something.
Right, so the next agenda, Kenny's absence will be listed on there
Yeah,
for
'cause-
the board to approve.
that's a good question.
Is that something we can address in the policy, Ann?
As far as what would be the standards?
What might be deemed acceptable? Or,
Right, I mean, gosh, I wish Pedro was on the phone right now. But yeah, you could, that could be addressed in here, in this resolution. And maybe that's something that, so if you wanted to, you could just table this review for the next meeting and maybe give some more thought as to what would be acceptable or not acceptable for absences.
And really, I think they might be used as an examples, because it'd be hard to encompass everything.
Right.
right.
Yeah, I mean, it is. But I think you can also, it's kind of like like vulgar language or profanity, you just know it when you see it. I think the board would know it if somebody was just completely slacking and not willing to pull their load.
Well, I would hope at this point that if that's happened, I mean, it's John and myself and the next individual, I hope you step down. So,
Right. So would you guys like to explore that further? Talk about it next meeting?
I was just wondering if there was a, guideline for absentees, because, if it's up to the board's discretion, I think that's satisfactory.
Okay, so would you like to table it until next time? Want to move it forward with no changes?
My personal feeling is we're okay with it as it is. We can just move forward, no changes, but probably go through a motion if that's the case, or unless we want to table it till we have more members.
I'm okay with it. I'll make a motion to accept policy as written.
yeah, I'd second it.
Okay.
Any questions or discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. So approved as presented.
Okay, I would like to get a new signed version, that way it kind of memorializes the date that
Sure.
the policy was last reviewed.
Okay.
It helps me keep track of it.
Yes. So then the next item is the trustee removal policy. Just a
Okay, so this
review.
is basically the same thing as similar to the other policy. It needs to be reviewed every 2 years. The attendance policy provides that the trustee may be removed if they have 2 or more unexcused absences, so therefore we need to have a process or a policy to remove that person. The policy defines dereliction of duties as violation of the attendance policy, failing to prepare for meetings, violation of rules of ethics, failing to engage in continuing education, and a few other items. This is maybe another item that you want to, maybe we should table this one for next meeting to discuss it with Pedro, if you have any questions or concerns.
The only thing I've had, and I think we've discussed this before, it's the education requirements. Was that a yearly or semi-annual requirement?
I'm hoping to ask Pedro to clarify that, but he is not on the call. And obviously this year, all the conferences have been canceled due to
Right.
COVID, so it's changed the way we've had to operate.
My understanding was yearly, but it doesn't say anything about, what that is, or maybe it didn't say time, it just said that we would do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we could clarify that with Pedro.
I'd like to get that clarified.
Do you guys want to table this one, or?
I think we kind of need to, just to cover ourselves from
Okay.
I move to table it.
I'll second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved to move that to the next meeting. Next item is the board-appointed trustee vacancy.
Right. So there was some discussion at the last meeting, and I just didn't put it together in time for this meeting exactly. We have 3 applications, I think, or actually 2, or it could be, I don't know. We're still looking at it, but yes, go ahead, Cindy.
Number 3 did say that she's interested.
She is, okay, so we have 3 applicants interested in serving on the board. And since it's board appointed, this is really our first time filling a board appointed position in like
Quite a
over a
while.
decade, maybe even 2 decades. Carmine was here for a long time. So I think you guys wanted resumes, or did you just want to I could send you the applications through email? Do you want to invite them for interviews? How do you want to go about filling this position? Right?
So, yeah, I would definitely be interested in receiving the resume or the application
Okay.
of them. I don't know, what do you guys think about interviewing or?
My thought was I was gonna defer to you on that. I mean, I'm a rotating and could get kicked off at any time. This one is usually a long-termer. And quite frankly, this impacts you enormously.
Well, and typically, I don't know that we have more than one applicant, so to have three, maybe we want to do an interview next meeting?
Okay.
Okay. So I will email the applications to the trustees, and then we'll just arrange for them for an interview. And then how does that process look? Do you want to ask questions? I mean, do you want to send them questions ahead of time so that they know? Or do you want to just do a pop quiz on them? Or
That's probably, you know, it would be my preference to receive them ahead of time if I were in that position. So we'll have to decide on some questions and whether it's a true interview or just a meet and greet, a hello, or, you know, why do you want to be on the board, that kind of thing. Because they still are volunteering to be on the board.
So do you want to maybe have a limit of questions that each trustee would like to have, and then you send them to me, and then I just send them to the applicants, just maybe save some time? Or would you like to decide on some questions right now? Kind of puts you on the spot a little bit.
Well, do you guys want to think about it? Do we just want some basic questions? Do we want to email them to Ann? And
What's on the application?
that's a good
Just
question.
generic.
Just the basic stuff, as is on any of what I might do is maybe I'll ask them for their resumes, because that is something that Pedro suggested. So I'll ask for resumes. They can send me the resume and the applications. I'll send them to you guys. Once you see that, I think that's when questions will come up. It's really hard to be put on the spot right now to say, well, what do you want to ask?
Right.
So maybe I could do that. And then maybe the thing would be then to just come with one or maybe two questions to ask the the applicants, and then we'll have the meet and greet / interview at the next meeting.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
And I guess the other question that I have is, we're working through the operational aspect of it. When would we do that? At the beginning of the meeting? So do the minutes and then move on to that? I mean, at what point do we bring them in so that we're not?
We could do that at the beginning, and then once they've left after the interviews, then we could vote.
Wouldn't you do that during the citizens forum section? Do that, and then, my biggest question, when you do an interview, would you want each one personally, or, you know, in here by themselves, instead of having all three of them being grouped in too, you know? That might,
That's a good
no,
point.
if I was going for an interview and I got three other people there, I'd be wanting to be last. So.
Good point.
Well, now the Leisure Services Advisory Board, they're getting ready to interview 7 people. And they're just having the interviews to be in order of when the applications are received, and the applicants are gonna be waiting outside. And then they'll have ex officio teams are gonna be bringing them in as the interviews go through. So you could handle it in a similar situation or way if you'd like to.
I'd be good, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
sounds good.
Is that something we do before the meeting?
Hmm?
Would we do that during the meeting or before the meeting?
It's gotta be during the interviews, you mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Pedro's calling.
Oh, you? I'm not texted. Oh, there's something here.
Hello?
Oh, his phone died on him. Okay.
Hello?
I'm gonna try again. He said his phone died on him, so I imagine it's charged up now.
Nobody there.
Hi, Pedro, this is Ann Nixon. Welcome back to the meeting.
Hi, Ann, I'm so sorry, my phone died on me. Hello?
Oh, yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you. You're on speakerphone. Can you hear us?
Okay, perfect. So I apologize again to everybody, my phone has died on me, but, really nothing too much to report on. I just wanted to just touch base on the legislative session just began, about a month ago, at this point, a couple of weeks ago, not even a month yet, but, nothing significant, on the local pension side. There has been a bill that's been filed, I think, we spoke about it before, that does seek to close the Florida retirement system, defined benefit side of it. So essentially all of the employees would be automatically rolled to the, defined contribution side and the investment plan option. But, certainly it's still a little soon to tell. But by the next meeting in May, I'll have an idea as to what made it through, if anything, and then we give you a full report. But just, we're certainly keeping an eye on that one. We'll keep you posted if anything else develops on that front. The other item I did want to touch on, and I think we may have touched on it before, was there is a new statute, the E-Verify statute that was enacted by the Florida legislature last session, signed by the governor over the summer, and it became effective for all engagements after January 1 of this year. Unfortunately, it is something that does apply to us, to our pension plan, because just by the verbiage that was used, we were an unintended consequence. So it is something we do have to comply with. So what we've done is, obviously, with any contracts going forward, we'll have specific language in there acknowledging the use of the E-Verify platform. But we also thought it would be beneficial for each of our clients that are on board to also just kind of establish a baseline. So we created a draft letter, essentially serving two purposes. First, to notify all of our current existing providers that this is actually, this new law is in effect. And then also, secondarily, asking each of the providers, including myself, to acknowledge that we're complying with the statute currently, right? That we're already using the E-Verify. So, if you guys are comfortable with that, then I think I would just recommend that we send that letter out to our providers. And you don't have to send one to me, I got it, but I'll just respond to it. And then that way we can just keep the responses as part of our record. And then again, like I mentioned, obviously going forward, any contract that we have would have certain language in there addressing or acknowledging the E-Verify statute. And really, that's all I have for my report, unless you guys have any questions or comments or anything you need from me.
Pedro, we did have a question about the education and,
Sure.
And the requirements. Was that annually that those are required?
So it's a little bit, so the statute just requires continuing education. It doesn't specify who, what, when, where, how. I think, generally, we've always kind of had the discussion about we'd like to see maybe annually. Obviously, if you can't make it annually, maybe every other year. Just the attempt to try to get something done. Obviously with COVID, everything has been thrown for a loop, so I'm not concerned about you guys not getting education. Nobody's gotten any education really in the last at least year, probably maybe even a little bit longer at this point. So, I know the FPDTA is hoping to have its conference over the summer in person. they are going to be having, I'm actually recording my session, they're going to be having their trustee school online. So we're actually, so that's something that's going to be available. So if anybody's interested in that, the state did cancel its school. The division retirement did cancel its school. So, for the time being, the only option would be the FPPTA. But I think, again, if it's something that is inconvenient or something that just, we can't make it, I wouldn't be concerned with any kind of repercussion from the state or anything, because, we failed to go to a trustee school this year. I think we're okay.
Okay.
I had a question as,
You guys, the information for the MPPTA, and then if you guys, if anybody's interested, you can maybe log on to that, or, and then the FPPTA has some other additional, kind of online tutorials or sessions that you can access through the webpage currently. So that's another option if anybody's interested. It's pretty convenient. They did a nice job with it. So those are all, kind of options at the board. If anybody's interested, you can look at those.
Okay.
Pedro, I had a question about the E-Verify. How far does that extend out from us? Meaning, does the auditor need to be doing it, and does the FRS? I mean, where does that ripple effect go?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I don't have the best answer for you, just because, it just happened. So the statute really there hasn't been any guidance issued from the state, and obviously, as it gets challenged, if it gets challenged, like any other law, judges will issue their interpretation that could, also help guide. But I would say that, so for example, the auditor, to your question, I would say that the auditor, that wasn't an engagement by the pension fund. So that was something that the town, the city rather, engaged the auditor or the audit firm. So, that would be something that would, and depending on when they did it, obviously, that would be something between the audit firm and the city. From our perspective, it would be any, direct engagement that we have. So, from our perspective, who are we paying? Attorneys, actuaries, the League of Cities for the consulting side, and I want to say I think it might be it. I don't know if we have any other service providers, but I think that may be it. So that's where the ripple effect, from the pension board would extend. The question also from our perspective, let's say from my perspective, as a provider, how far does it extend for me? And that's a good question. That's one we've actually posed to the state in discussing this with kind of, with my colleagues around the state, the League of Cities attorneys and some other law firms. I think we all feel pretty comfortable that it doesn't extend, let's say, from my perspective, to the folks who deliver our office supplies, right? Or the folks who deliver our coffee and things like that. But I think it would, any kind of subcontractor that we have, let's say, I think they would apply to those individuals as well. But again, that's where we start getting into the finer points that really, I don't think have been addressed, to be honest. I think, just like with any new piece of legislation, at the beginning, it's a little bit just more trial by error, I think. But I think for the most part, as long as we can show, I think if you can show intention of trying to comply, and, maybe you missed something with a third-party vendor or something like that, I don't think there's going to be too many issues with it. Ultimately, the consequence, right, for violating this is that you get to default on it. You're essentially considered a default with the contract. So I think, it'll kind of root itself out, even if there is an issue, it'll root itself out in terms of whether or not, either side wants to actually take advantage and get out of the contract. Or if they just want to maybe, fix the problem, right? From our perspective, from the pension plan's perspective, our contracts are generally terminable on 30 days notice anyway. So also, not to mention, I think the intention of the statute was geared towards certain industries, right, certain fields that has a higher prevalence for illegal worker participation, right, so construction, labor, agriculture, not necessarily pension. We're, generally speaking, we're dealing in highly regulated industries with, where there's not, generally speaking, a high level of illegal worker participation. So we're dealing with investment management firms, consulting firms, actuarial firms, law firms. These are generally not areas where you see a lot of illegal workers to begin with. And couple that with the fact that, we just have a lot of extra layers of administration, right, as to who we can hire, how we can hire them, and so on and so forth. So for all of those reasons, I don't really see it being an issue for us, for our pension plan. But nonetheless, it's a good question. So I think this is kind of a wait and see to see how far out that, like you said, that ripple effect really extends.
City has a form that we use for our formal solicitations to confirm E-Verify compliance. We can certainly adapt that for the board's use.
Well, but it's already being done then with him because we're always piggybacking on who your auditor is anyway, so we're covered.
Yeah, the other one who we need to look at would be the actuary. That's for the Florida League of Cities, but it's Southern Actuary.
Chuck Carr, Southern Actuarial Services. Obviously our firm, and I think that would be really it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions for Pedro?
And Pedro, we are going to move forward with the trustee removal policy to the next agenda to table it. And then the board agreed the trustee attendance policy was sufficient. They didn't have any changes, so they approved it as is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And again, I do apologize for causing so many problems for you guys.
Okay. And then we also talked about the fiduciary liability insurance. We will be getting quotes from different companies, including the League of Cities. Do you have any advice regarding the level of the insurance that we should have for the board?
I don't. I mean, we've had this conversation before. I think it's just like any other insurance. It's a lot of it is what the board feels comfortable with. I think there was kind of a rule of thumb where maybe you would want your insurance should be equivalent to maybe about 1% of the total assets of the fund. But I mean that's I think you can look at that, and then you can also look at what are the risk factors, right? So for large plans with a large number of retirees, a large number of participants, I think there's probably a higher risk for something to go wrong. There's more moving parts, right? For a smaller fund, for a closed fund, such as ours, it's administered through really the League of Cities and the city. Obviously, plays a large role in it as well. I feel very comfortable with kind of the board being insulated to a great degree because of just the demographics of the plan, the administration of the plan, and how it's handled. So, but again, that's me. And everybody's risk tolerance is a little bit different. So, just like any other form of insurance, I think it's up to the board to kind of gauge where they feel comfortable with, and where they can see things going wrong, and potentially what that exposure is and address it, right? So here for our plan, again, it's a closed plan. Where contributions are monitored and double checked essentially because the city puts it in, the actuary checks it each year. The benefits, it's the same process. We go through the city and the actuary. So I would say that unless the board sees something or feels it differently, that, you know, the level that we have is probably more than fair. What do we have right now? Just
$1 million.
curiosity.
1 million.
I'm sorry.
It's 1 million.
Yeah, I mean, unless the board, you know, I think we've had this exercise before too. I mean, we could always look at, you know, what would it cost to increase it to 2 million? You know, if it's 20, 30 bucks, then maybe the board, you know, sees that as valuable. And if it's a couple $100, you know, then there'd be more of a decision. I wouldn't go less than 1 million, but I don't see a need to increase it unless, again, if the board just wants to maybe go through the exercise and cost out what, you know, some additional coverage would look like and see if it's, you know, cost benefit analysis, see if it's worth it. You know, that would certainly, it doesn't cost us anything to do that, just a little bit of time, obviously. That would be, I think, that would be helpful for these purposes, but if everybody feels comfortable with where we're at and how we're doing it, you know, I would feel comfortable approving what we have currently and maybe looking next year at quoting or pricing out what, you know, what 2 million would look like, what 3 million would look like. And then the board has, you know, you can have the discussion in terms of whether they're worth it, is it not worth it, et cetera.
Okay,
Thank you.
When does the policy expire, or when do you have to renew it, right?
We have to renew it by July 1st.
Oh, okay. So you have some time. I mean, I don't know, you know, if the board wants to get quotes and maybe discuss it at the next meeting before, and make a decision before renewing. You could do it that way as well. I thought it was maybe a little bit more imminent, but, you know, if you want to do it that way, then that way we can have, you can look and say, oh, you know, that's going to cost $20 more a month, to have an extra $1 million of coverage. You know, that seems worth it to us. That could be something that we could do.
Okay.
Or like I said, you know, just renew it and next year maybe look at it again and possibly, you know, have kind of a standing order to maybe get some different quotes and look at it next year.
okay, thank you, Pedro. I think we're gonna move forward looking for some quotes.
Okay, sure.
So the last item on the agenda is discussing my term expiration.
Oh.
I think it's due, is it April?
So March 29th, they'll be sending the nomination form to Fire Rescue, and then your term expires in April, but the whole process should be done by the end of April.
Okay.
And are her and Kenny on separate terms, like
Opposite
staggered?
years. Okay. Anything else to discuss? Questions?
Doing?
What do you mean, what am I doing? I'm waiting for a nomination to adjourn.
No, I meant for the, are you abandoning us?
Oh, no, it's just the end of my turn.
I move to adjourn.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you. Next meeting, June 22nd. Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you, Pedro.
Bro.
I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Bye-bye. People's gotten their shots. Got both of mine.
Cindy, you haven't gotten yours?
What's that?
You're too young, aren't you?
For what?
The COVID shot?
Oh, I'm going right after the, I got it.
Oh.